The Gauteng Department of Infrastructure says it's going to dispose of property that it does not use, and this includes the official Premier's house, through an online auction. The department has also introduced a new project management system that it says will cut down on wasteful expenditure. The Gauteng government owns property valued at 31 billion rands. We speak to the MEC Jacob Mamabolo to explain further. Well, MEC, a pleasure to talk to you. And thanks for coming by and catching up with us. A lot of things that are happening in your area of work, and with a few months back, the launch of Lutzinger House, and I saw some interesting technology that you are introducing there. But first, let's talk about the open tender system that the Gauteng government is looking at this time.
Firstly, thank you very much once more for the opportunity. I'm very much pleased to say that indeed there's a lot that's happening in the infrastructure delivery space within our province of Gauteng. And one of the key highlights currently is that the MEC of Finance, MEC Barbara Creasy, has announced a groundbreaking intervention with respect to the funding of infrastructure in the province. We have got about, in the 3-year MTF period starting in 2017, we are going to see about 40 billion allocated to infrastructure development in Gauteng province. And one of the most important things that was also emphasized is the fact that we're making good progress with the rollout of open tender system. Members of the public, and of course the people in Gauteng, would agree that as a province, we have made strides, we have made good progress to ensure that our tender system is transparent, it has integrity. People can see what's happening. People can be able to view the people that sit and evaluate the tender. They can listen, they can see, listen to the conversation, see what's happening. So the open tender system basically gives members of the public the opportunity to have access to the proceedings when tenders are being evaluated. And in the overall, the process is currently being piloted. But as a Department of Infrastructure Development, we have decided that all our tenders must go through the open tender system. And that's precisely because we're dealing with, we're one of the key drivers of expenditure in the province to deliver schools, clinics, and all that, which affect communities. And it's very much important for communities to know how was this tender allocated, given, who got it.
But now, MEC, I'm going back to the Auditor General's report, right? It appears that so-called wasteful expenditure happens a lot in the infrastructure development space, in the procurement and payment for such infrastructure, right? So in your case as Gauteng, what is your department doing to make sure that you reduce such wasteful expenditure, or where projects are never completed on time or are not even done at all?
Now, let me say to you, Tim, that you know, the issue of wasteful expenditure in infrastructure delivery is an international problem. I was just recently reading the report published by McKinsey Global Institute, which points out to the fact that in many parts of the world, waste pertaining to spending of money on the delivery of infrastructure is an international problem. They were actually saying, given the fact that many countries in the world don't have money due to, you know, the problems of the economy internationally, they could save and do better by making sure that money is allocated and spent very well. Recently, in what you referred to, our infrastructure nerve center, which we call Lutzinger Infrastructure House, which is a technology, you know, a house that has all our technology systems to deliver infrastructure. We hosted the government of Botswana. They came and we discovered that in Botswana, about 68 million US dollars goes into waste. We have recently hosted a delegation from Uganda. They came to see the capability that we have, Lutzinger, which we have put in place this May, to see how do we deal with this type of problems. But I'm pleased to say to you, with the technology that we have put in place, in Lutzinger Infrastructure House, it helps us to deal exactly with that. Because when I assessed the history of the department on how it was delivering infrastructure, project managers that were running these projects were working in what I can call isolated dark corners, where we couldn't see what each one of them is doing. And in that space, money meant to deliver a school, a clinic, will be managed in such a way that it doesn't give us the good results, good outcomes, and what I can call value for money.
Yes.
And now that we have put good technology in the Lutzinger Infrastructure House, it means we now have transparency. We know what each one of them is doing. We now know how the money is being spent. And not just at the end of the year, we see every Monday, 2 o'clock, we sit inside Lutzinger Infrastructure House. We look at where is money going. Because indeed, as you rightly say, the Auditor General has painted a picture, has given a report, that there's a difference between money spent and the results that we're supposed to get for that money. And that's also because construction industry itself is riddled with many contradictions. You'll know with the 2010 Soccer World Cup stadiums, construction, we still have issues hanging in the air about the fact that costs were going up at a rate that could not be explained. So,
But have you started seeing the results of this new approach of monitoring projects in real time?
you know, I must say to you that, and let me say to you that we have had a discussion with the Statistician General, Padile Hook, on how we can use Lutzinger Infrastructure House, the systems, the technology that we have put in there to also showcase to the world how that technology can improve delivery of infrastructure. And I'm very much pleased that with the partnership we have with Stats SA, using that technology, the systems that we have put in place, we are seeing results. Our managers, for the first time, we are able to know in 11 days who has not updated their project. Because remember, when you don't report on your project, we don't know what's going on. Now we're able to see, out of all our project managers, so many have not accounted. So many have not told us where the project is. And inside that house, we also have a technology capability that uses a cell phone, the one that has a camera, and then we can call that project manager. We can ask them to use the camera to move around and show us in real life
But now,
where the project is.
MEC, sorry for the interruption. Are you saying, because it has happened in other parts of the country, that government officials claim that a school is being built somewhere, and then members of parliament visit the place and they find that not even one brick has been laid down or no foundations have been dug up for the particular school, that this time you are able to show that indeed some development is taking place?
Absolutely, because indeed, remember, when you have managers that are driving projects and nobody can see what they are doing, we don't know what's going on. So you will certainly have ghost projects. That's what I can call them.
Yes.
But you'll also have syndicates colluding to make sure that those ghost projects are being paid for. So you do have cases where members of parliament doing oversight work will say, we were told it's complete, but in actual fact, it has not started.
Yes.
Myself, I've had this experience very recently. I visited a clinic in Gauteng in Mirafo municipality.
Yes.
And I was told that, this project was supposed to be completed now in November. And when I visited that project, what did I find? I found that they have not started the foundation. It's a project allocated in April. It was supposed to be completed now in November. And when I arrived there, I found they're still working on the foundation. Now, with this Lutzinger Infrastructure House, the capabilities we have put there, the smart technologies, the use of the camera on the cell phone that you can show us the site, we will be able to know that project is not where they claim it to be.
Here's another
so I'm
issue
very
then.
much happy with what we have.
Here's another issue then, which I think and hope your department is dealing with, but government generally is faced with, is duplication of projects on one hand and oversupply of property and facilities, right? And because there are a lot of them that are lying empty. There's a hospital, I think, in Edenvale or in Campton Park, which has been lying empty for a while and has not been used. And I'll use examples from the rest of the country to illustrate my point. So what are you doing with the properties that are there but not being used at this time?
You know, I must say to you, the team, that you raised one of the most important issues in the management of immovable assets of government. There is an act of parliament. It's called Government Immovable Asset Management Act. We call it GIAMA. Now, this act says to us, as a Department of Infrastructure and Government, we must acquire infrastructure, like a school, build it. That's acquisition. We must maintain the infrastructure. Now, we're not doing well on this. Maintenance, as you know, you can see with the recent floods, government generally, we neglect maintenance of our assets.
Yeah.
The third one is disposal of assets. Now, you can dispose an asset in two ways. You can either demolish it or you can sell it. Now, one of the things that has not been happening is that we've been very good in acquisition, which is construction, building, and all that. But we have in many townships, in Ekurhuleni, for example, you have got Cathoras College, which a member in the House asked us a question about, which has been standing empty for a number of days. And the examples you have mentioned. Some of these facilities, you have got schools standing empty in the townships that are not being utilized, and many of them are now being used by criminals to commit crimes as hideouts, all sorts of social problems coming out of these neglected facilities. Now, one of the things that we have done with the Lutsinga Infrastructure House is that we have just completed, Tim, putting together a database or register of all government properties in Gauteng province. We know all the schools, all the clinics, hospitals, etc., etc. They are contained in our asset register. It's automated, it's run on a very good technology. We have it inside the Lutsinga House. It's worth 31 billion using municipal rates. Now, this immovable asset register, what does it help us? It helps us now to know how many properties do we have in Gauteng? How many of them are currently utilized? How many of them are neglected? How many of them are completely, are subject of demolition? But because we have just recently completed this Act of Parliament that I've spoken about, GIAMA, it says, if we take, for example, the Department of Education, my colleague MEC Lesufi every year must say to us as infrastructure department, this school, that one, we don't need them, we are not going to utilize them for many reasons. Either because the school is so dilapidated, if you are to rebuild it, it's going to cost you a lot of money, demolish it. We have that part, we were not doing it correctly because we did not have a total comprehensive view of all our assets.
But now I want to come to the current situation of the disposal of the same assets. I learned that, for instance, the house that was meant for the use by the Premier is one of those properties that the Premier of Gauteng that's going to be disposed. If you can briefly tell me about the whole disposal program that you are undertaking.
Precisely the point. So just to pick up on what I was saying, that now that we have the portfolio of Gauteng assets, we know them, we know where they are, we know their GPS coordinates, we can zoom into a system and look at it. So the Premier's official residence and the properties that we are going to be disposing of, about 17 of them, with the Premier's house making them 18. We are now able to come to the conclusion that these assets, we are selling them. 2 days on Monday, I was in Ekurhuleni. I visited Old Natal Sprite Hospital. We are demolishing it. So I went there to oversee the process of demolition. So with the immovable asset register team, we now are in a much more stronger and better position to dispose of the assets. So on the 5th of September.
Yeah, I have to rush you now because of the disposal. When is it starting of the properties? And if you can briefly tell me about the types of properties and who qualifies to buy such properties.
Yes, so I was saying that So we having checked out of the movable asset register, we now know the Premier's official residence. We are taking it to auction. There are pieces of land in Heidelberg, in the West Rand and across the province, residential properties. These properties are not adding value to our core business. The Premier's official residence, the Premier is not living there. We have to maintain the house. It has running costs, so we're disposing of it through an online auction that will be starting on the 5th of December, and it will be at the official residence. But because it's an online auction, open to everybody can participate. The system is quite easy to use. I've seen it myself. But we have also created a facility at our head office. We have a partnership with some estate agencies in the province. They are going to create local offices where a person like yourself, anyone, can walk in there and participate on the online auction. They will show you how to do it. It's very easy.
If you are in your office somewhere, where do you go just to see what's going on?
There's a website which we will give you the address of the web address. And then you just log in there. It has got a simple step-by-step process of how, when you log inside, you'll see Gauteng Provincial Government Department of Infrastructure auction of properties is there. You'll see it on the website of a company called Tirani. Tirani is the auctioning company. But let me say to you...
well, I am going to stop you, unfortunately. Well, you can be very brief.
I want to really be very brief and say to you that whilst the auction is open to everybody, but to make sure that this process has integrity, is clean, and it's underpinned by good ethics, and it's based on good morals, and it does not bring any suspicion. We have taken a decision that government officials in the province of Gauteng, politicians, are not going to be allowed to participate in this process because we are conflicted. We are the custodians of the properties. We are the users of the properties, and we can't be the ones going to buy the very same properties. So everybody is allowed, but politicians, Gauteng provincial government officials will not come anywhere close to this property.
MEC, thank you very much for talking to us, and a lot of information, obviously, and detail that we still need to update. But there you are, the Gauteng government is disposing some of its properties and also has upgraded methods of monitoring projects. Would like to hear feedback from you. You believe them, and what is your evaluation? I'm sure you'll need the feedback as well from members of the public. So let's hear from you and write to us. The email address tonight@modise.tv, on Twitter @TimModise. The auction is starting on the 5th of December.